In the dystopian future, it's not enough to control what people can say. You need to actually be able to control what people can think. We've seen many attempts at this in history, such as Nazi Germany, where Hitler used censorship of speech and book burning of those words and books which contain anti-German or anti-Nazi concepts, or the Spanish Inquisition also burning millions of books and printing the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, or Index of Prohibited Books. However, in both of these examples, they focused on only one side of the two-sided problem. So much of existence is built upon twos, dualities, pairs, and when you take one element away of something that inherently operates on a duality, you create a void. If you leave the void unfilled, others will fill it somehow, whether they realize it or not. Hitler and Isabella didn't fill the void, and I'm sure this was part of the reason why their plans for domination, thankfully, failed. But what if they had figured out that missing element? Fortunately for them, ideology wasn't fully understood yet, and Orwell's 1984 was still safely in the future. We are not so lucky. Now, most of us who read 1984 read it in grade school, when we could barely understand its message. I still think it's important that it was on curriculums, but I also think it's very important that we read it as adults. At least once, if not every few years. So if you haven't lately, consider this your nudge to revisit it. The audiobook is also very good. In Chapter 5, the protagonist, Winston, reads The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism, which essentially is the manual that explains how to achieve full domination and keep it going indefinitely. The part that is relevant here goes like so. The purpose of Newspeak was not only to provide a medium of expression for the worldview and mental habits proper to the devotees of English socialism, but to make all other modes of thought impossible. It was intended when Newspeak had been adopted once and for all and Old Speak forgotten, a heretical thought, that is, a thought diverging from the principles of Ingsoc, should be literally unthinkable, at least so far as thought is dependent on words. Imagine for a moment something you love to do in your free time, something which is freeing and makes you feel joyful. Now imagine living in a world where not only was it impossible to do this, but the language you spoke literally had no words for it at all, nor any words for how that thing makes you feel. Perhaps you could get a vague concept, but you would have no way to fully form that concept in your mind, and no way to communicate and share that joy and freedom with anyone else. Further, when a regime regularly enforces that only things within the state language are good, and things not accepted as part of that language are bad, you couldn't help but feel as though the thing you found joyful and freeing was, in fact, wrong and immoral. Thus you'd feel guilty for even thinking it. Okay, well, this hopefully communicates a bit of the danger of messing with language too much, and why I am so passionate about words and the freedom and self-growth that expanding one's vocabulary provides. So, without further ado, welcome to the Word Warrior podcast, where we defend language and combat Newspeak one awesome word at a time. For my very first episode, I'm going to nerd out on probably my all-time favorite antonyms, Laconic and Loquacious. My friends listening to this right now are probably rolling their eyes because of how often I've rhapsodized on this beautiful pair, but bear with me, I'll make this time even more fun, I swear. Laconic is the more interesting of the two. It means literally using very few words in your speech, your style of writing, or when you're describing someone. For example, the Spartans, known for their terse and direct style of speech, were quite laconic.
This is Sparta!
In fact, the most interesting bit of this word is its etymology, as it's one of my favorite kinds of origins, a geographic one. The Spartans were from the region of Laconia, and being the dominant culture in the area and in their time, Their habit of speaking with as few words as possible, with no embellishment, to be as clear and direct as possible, was copied by pretty much all of their neighbors. It went along well with their austere and militaristic society. As I'm sure you've inferred by now, loquacious means the opposite, tending to talk a lot, verbose.
Can we just talk?
It comes from Latin loqui, which means talk. Somewhere in between when it was loqui in Latin and loquacious in English, it spent some centuries being loquax, spelled Loquax, which makes me think of a duck quacking incessantly, much like some people do. And here's a fitting example sentence containing both words. While the Spartans felt strongly of the superiority of their laconic nature and territorial defense, the sophists traveled all over Greece, filling up the air with loquacious rhetoric. Well, there you have it, friends. Your first episode of Consummate Word Content consumed. I hope you like my favorite antonyms as much as I do. I'll be back next week with one of my favorite words of all time, and to tease your linguistic appetites, it starts with the letter Z. Have a great rest of your week, and remember to question everything and stay curious.